Hello and welcome to another episode of the devlog of Runes of Aereal. So let me show you what I did lately. The first thing I did, let me start the sandbox here to this one. First thing I did is the button here at the top left side that shows the scrolls. If we show the scrolls, the scrolls are visible here at the bottom. If we go back to the cards are visible at the bottom. The thing is, there was a bug that if the scrolls are visible and we end the turn, then the cards are really at the bottom here, somewhere below the screen, and when the turn ends, these cards here, the left deck and the right deck here, are also invisible. So that means if we end the turn now, there's going to be some mix-up in tweening and stuff like that. That's because before it was so that those functions were just called, and now I've turned this into a command function. So that means that in the command functions we also have two extra functions called switch to scrolls and switch to cards. And the implementation of those two functions is actually what used to be the implementation of the button click, the top left corner. And basically these two command functions are called using these switch to scrolls and switch to cards command. And if we then go and look, what happens is here in the scroll interaction, when we click the cards button, we switch to the cards. And also when we click the next turn button, we also switch to the cards. So that when we do the next turn, we first switch to the cards, and only when that's done, we end the turn. So that's basically what happens. In order to implement that, let me show you here. In order to implement that, what we had to do, or what I had to do, was let's go to command functions and switch to scrolls, for example. This here, this tween, this cards button, that's the cards button on the top left. I call this tag here scroll card switch complete, and if we do a find on that, we'll see on completion that we set this executing to 0. So that means if that card button at the top left corner, so this button here at the top left corner, stops tweening down or up, doesn't matter, then this execution of that command will be set to 0. So that means only if that card is fully up or fully down, then the next command will start, and that case of ending the turn, only when it's fully up, the turn will end. So that way we have no issues with changing from scrolls to cards and vice versa anymore when in regards to that. So that's one. In the same regards, I have added a little extra bonus in that. So let me just find these references again. And what we did here is when we destroy a scroll, then we will see if there is still inventory or not. So if there are still cards, is there no more inventory or of scrolls, or there are no more scrolls left to play, we automatically switch to cards when a scroll is destroyed. So let me show you how that works. Anyone with a scroll, this one for example. So here are two scrolls available. And now we go to the scroll interface, one scroll left to use, we pick poison, and now there is no more scrolls left to use, you can see that here, so we automatically switch back. Also, if there are no more scrolls left to use, scrolls left in the inventory will also automatically switch back. So that's fully leveraging that extra command we switched there from scrolls to cards. So that's that. The second thing I've been doing is adding a new scroll. And let me go to the scrolls here. And the scrolls I've added here is the scroll called Intense. The next card will do double damage. For that, I have explicitly created a sandbox item. Here it's called Intense, and here you see I've got some just a starter deck and some random enemy, but here the scroll Intense is used. So the scroll Intense, let me show you what that is.
Fight.
So let's go to the scroll. We can just use that scroll. When the scroll is played, the next card will do double damage. So you can see here that this state, there's an extra state. The next card will do double damage. So this one does 6 damage plus 2 for the attack skill. So 6 plus 2 is 8. It should be 16 damage. And indeed 16 damage has been done. But now the next card has been played, so that state goes away. So the next one will cause 5 damage, 3 plus 2. And that's it. So that's an extra state. So this card here, this scroll, has a scroll type called Damage Multiplier. So this Damage Multiplier, let me search for that. What we do there is in the logic, let me see here, here. So in the logic, what we do is if we use a scroll and the scroll type is Damage Multiplier, we set that Damage Multiplier value to the scroll value, which is 2. So at that time, we will go and see in the cast card damage, we will multiply the damage times that damage multiplier. And of course, when we go to the battle and we start the battle, we set the damage multiplier to 1, and also there is an extra command called postcard use. So why is that? This postcard use, if we reset, that's to reset the damage multiplier actually, or to reset anything that needs to be reset after a card has been used. Because if we reset the damage multiplier in the use card function, because the casting of the damage itself is in another function later, which will be called later in the command queue, the damage multiplier will be already set to 1 or reset to 1, and it won't work. So we actually need to queue that reset of the damage multiplier, so it's only done after the damage has been cast. So you can see that here in the use card, where is it? Use card here. So here we see if the card cast damage is greater than none, then we call cast card damage. This is queued, so it's not in this function that the damage is effectively done. It's when executing this command that it's done. So if we were to set in this use card function here at the back, if we were to say, for example, okay, now we set the damage multiplier back to 1, then the game would set the damage multiplier back to 1, and only in the next update of the queue command it would use that damage multiplier, but it would already be reset to 1. So that's why we just queue a postcard use. So in that way, the command queue will first execute the damage, and after that, because it's the command that comes after the damage command, it will do the postcard use and reset that here. So basically, we can use it in the future to do anything that needs to happen when a card has been played. Any card. So this is the postcard use function that was added. So the damage multiplier, that is for the new Intense scroll. Let me show you what happens here, that intent scroll has its own new player state icon here. I know it's a very funny one. I didn't have any inspiration, so it's just temporary. Let's say I'll replace that with a nicer graphic in a later stage. But now it's called. This is the 5th state actually, and it's a refresh state. How is it called? No. We'll set the hero state or something it's called. Yes, here. On function set hero state. What we do here is if the damage multiplier is greater than 1 when we refresh the hero states, then we set the hero state to state double. This is an extra state I created, and it's also an extra constant called state icon double, which is set to the constant 5, so I can set the animation frame to the double icon. So the same animation frame has also been introduced to the enemy player states, because it's best to keep them in sync. So these constants also apply to the enemy states, not only to the player states. So this hero state is set whenever the damage multiplier is greater than 1. And whenever this is changed to greater than 1 or equal to 1, this refresh hero states is called to refresh the states of the hero, of course. So that's for the intent scroll. And the last thing I would like to show you that was added was the foresight card. So let's go to the cards actually, and the cards that was added here was this foresight card. So unplayable, if this card is removed, gain 1 energy. So it's unplayable. You see this dash in the energy, and also this is an option here in an instance variable called unplayable, which is set to 1 if the card is unplayable, essentially. So what we need to do there, and I also have unplayable foresight testing sandbox here. Let me show you. So deliberately I added a lot of foresights in here, and I also added a lot of trade-offs, because one of these cards is one of those traits here is discard 1 card. So now I can you can see that they are unplayable, they are grayed out and you cannot take them, and also they can be chosen. If I just discard one, I can select the foresight card, discard it, it disappears, and the extra energy is added. So in order to do that, a few things needed to change. The first thing that changed was the function rearrange cards. So in rearrange cards, what I did is I added an extra clause that says, okay, when we're battling, so if the menu is not visible and we're battling and the card is unplayable, then we just disable the card. Else, if the card is playable, we only disable the card if the card cost is greater than the energy. So that's the only thing we did here. That makes sure that the card is unplayable. The other thing we did is here on the cards on created, we just added, there was already this action here that disables the grayscale, but we only do that now if the card is playable. So it's immediately grayscaled when the card is created, so it never needs to be enabled anyway. And the last thing, and the most important thing of course, is here in the interaction. In the interaction here there's a left click on the discard button, and what I did is I picked the card that is highlighted actually, and I check for that card if that special function equals energy if discarded. That's the special function of that foresight card. And if so, I add the energy of the card, I play the effect, and I remove from the deck. I remove from the deck instead of putting the card back on the discard pile. So if it's not that way, we just put away the card. So that's the difference. For these cards, it's removed, and for all of the other cards, it's put away. Then we set it up for battle again, we evaluate the next turn, and that's it. So that's how this foresight card is implemented. So far for the update. As always, please like, please subscribe, and if you want a source code for this game, please support me on my Patreon page.